I'm Stephanie, a mother, a pilot. I don't know. Am I trying to say the same thing? Or just talk? Welcome to the Wisdom and Wealth Podcast, where the stories you don't hear are the ones that matter most. I'm Stephanie, a mother, pilot, and commercial real estate professional with deep roots in Arizona. I was an entrepreneur at 24 and sold my first business at 27, and I've been navigating commercial real estate ever since. We are going to be sitting down with some of the biggest names in business around the Phoenix metropolitan area, as well as community leaders and nonprofit organizations that are continuing to improve our community. I'm very excited for the things that they chose to share when they thought nobody was listening. What I've learned in hearing their stories aren't just the struggles and how we overcome them, but really building a network around you of people that know you, trust you, want to help you, and you are trying to give just as much to them as they give to you every single day. And never connecting that relationship to a transaction. It's about the relationships, the connections, and understanding the true stories that shape success. And I hope you find inspiration in the conversations we have. Thanks for joining me. If you wouldn't mind, can we just do a roundhouse of introductions really quick? And Jake, you're so good at this. I'll let you go first.
I'm Jake Dinnen, Executive Vice President and Partner at PMB. We're a healthcare real estate development company that specializes in the continuum of care, which is medical office buildings, senior living, post-acute, which is inpatient rehab facilities, as well as behavioral health.
Thank you so much, Jake.
Chris Marchildon and Barry Gabel, both Executive Managing Directors with Newmark. We've been here for roughly 3 years, specialize in the capital markets, mostly office, but also industrial and native Phoenicians. So we've been here, from day one.
Yeah, and I've been doing this a little longer than Chris. This is actually my 42nd year in the business, so that's kind of equal to old, O-L-D.
Never. And Bill.
Yeah, Bill Murney with Executive Managing Director at Cushman & Wakefield, specialized in hospitality. I started about 2 years after Barry did, so I fall into that same category. And I do mostly hotel capital market sales in the Southwest and Intermountain region.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Welcome and thanks for being here. So in case we didn't capture it earlier, I was saying that these are really good news stories. We've got hospitality, healthcare, and office. And again, now that we've had a rough draft, tell us some good news about office. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? 2026.
Yeah, happy to jump in there, Steph. The office, a lot of green shoots, a lot of optimism going into 26, some big notable closings towards the end of 2025 on the office side, user activity and, value add. But what's changed, most recently and call it the last 3-4 months, institutions becoming office curious. They've been sidelined for the last 3-4 years. It's been private equity, billionaire row, making acquisitions of office buildings at a lower reduced basis. The institutions see that there's 90 tenants over 10,000 feet, accounting for about 4 million square feet, active, looking for space. Office buildings, trophy office buildings are full, achieving the top market rents ever in Phoenix history in the mid to high 60s a foot, full service. So there's a lot of things that are permeating across the market that people are pointing to that is good news, that's upside, and gives us some runway for success going forward.
That's awesome.
Yeah, institutional capital is definitely office curious, as Chris mentioned, but what's really exciting is what we believe to be major drivers for what's going on in Phoenix, and that is that there are so many new buyers to Phoenix that have never owned real estate here before, but frankly, have investigated Phoenix, has watched Phoenix, but now that Phoenix is considered a primary market, no longer secondary or tertiary, because of the economic diversification of Phoenix, our employment growth, our population growth, our cost of living, our 4 major universities, etc., that is attracting capital from all over the country and frankly the world. And we now have new owners of real estate that had never been here before that are here. But also what's really exciting is the local and sometimes regional investors were sidelined on Phoenix because historically we've had these ebbs and flows, highs and lows, which we don't really have any longer because of the diversification of industry. So it's a pretty safe platform. And as such, the local investors are now getting back involved into the market because they're seeing these out of state, out of country buyers making really strategic investments and harvesting those for significant profits. So we are excited to have new capital coming to Phoenix that's never been here before, and existing capital getting back involved in Phoenix that had been here previously. So it's really shaping up to be a phenomenal 2026.
So Barry, basically the local investor got FOMO, is what you're saying.
No question. Absolutely. Yes, they
Well,
did.
they did. I love that. And you see some of I call them the OG developers, the guys that built our town, right? Yeah, you start to see them, they're physically in market again and kind of kicking tires and asking questions. And you hadn't seen them in the last couple of years. I don't know if Coronado was just treating them too well or whatever, but you can feel it. Even if we're not sitting in the seat and getting the phone calls that you're getting, you can feel it. But Jake,
Yes.
this might pertain to you as well, because you can develop healthcare in the whole Western region, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Why
we're
Phoenix?
actually nationwide. So,
Are you?
But yeah, our main footprint is really Arizona, California, Colorado, Pacific Northwest. So we're all over the place. But Phoenix, the greater Phoenix area and Arizona as a whole has just been such a great market for us for so many years because of the aging population of the in-place people are getting older, and then the in-migration from places like California, like Illinois, like you name the state that's overtaxed and has horrible weather. People flock to Arizona, so you can't ignore that type of population growth, and you have such great health systems between Common Spirit, Honor, Banner, Abrazo, all of them competing in a very strategic way across the valley, and that helps helps us get credit behind our leases to help start new developments, or for those markets that we already have existing medical office building in, backfilling because new development is so expensive. So in 2025, we didn't dig any new developments in the greater Phoenix area. 2026 looks like we may dig one or two, but we still see the let's call it the tailwinds behind us with population growth and supply and demand through healthcare that's going to have a strong impact on the greater valley. So
Why 2026? Why is it different?
I think everybody's starting to go, oh yeah, this is really what it costs, right? So 2025 was really I'm going to call it the year of the pencil, right? It was everybody sitting there trying to make everything pencil. The construction costs were too much. Landowners were asking too much for dirt. It just architects were too expensive. You name it, right? Everything was too expensive. And now you're starting to see people kind of reset. Landowners are starting to see a little bit of pullback, at least in the medical space, where they were asking for $24, $25 a square foot. Now I'm seeing things in sub 20, which is phenomenal to see. It helps us get something that actually is a land residual that'll help us pencil a new development, which is great. And then with construction costs, tariffs threw everybody for a loop. Depending on which general contractor you spoke to, they didn't know if it was going to be a 15% increase in construction cost or a 3% increase in construction cost. It really depended on the internal kind of thought process for each one of those general contractors. So now that everything's kind of starting to settle a little bit, people are starting to see, all right, this is where it's going to be. This is what it needs to be within reason for my rents for a new development. And if I can't do a new development and I've tried to make this pencil, what are my other options? And what medical office buildings are within my geographic area that can service my patient population? And how do I find space? And some of those other older physicians are starting to retire. That space is coming available. So you're seeing some backfilling of some of the older space. So occupancy in healthcare is extremely high right now. It will probably still remain so for years to come throughout the valley.
And Bill, how about you? What are we seeing for hospitality? Your asset class, I feel like, has been one of those in the news with no consistency. It's things are great, things are terrible. What's the truth?
Well, both. The biggest issues facing the hospitality in 25 was, we expected 24 to be off from 23 because of the Super Bowl, first year of spring training since 2019, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a fall off in 24, but because of the lack of international travel to Arizona, primarily Canadians. 25 was also down. And so we got a buy bid ask spread to try to resolve. And as well as the construction costs, there's some development pockets that are happening, the West Valley, Mesa Gateway, but the same problems that we just discussed, and cost of land and construction costs, tariffs, which is also impacting the renovations that are required by the brands every 7 years. So, people are looking to try to source FF&E from Vietnam and Cambodia, Laos instead of China to avoid the tariffs. So, the operating expenses have gone up. Obviously, the cost of labor, insurance for sure has a significant impact. Hotels are really a operating business with a real estate component. So, it's people trying to figure out where the fat is that they can cut if they buy the hotel, what have you. So the transaction market is slower because of all those factors. There's a lot of people that want to be in Phoenix, obviously, but you got to have, a product that doesn't need significant capital post-acquisition and a well-located asset with a good brand. So those are hard to come by. I mean, we did 4 transactions last year. I did. And then we're going to do 3 the first quarter. But
Yeah. Wow.
they're long processes. And but you have, there's a lot of people who go, Phoenix is on our radar. We want to buy something there. But again, because of the fall off in the performance, there's that gap that, as Jim Cruz said to me 2 years ago, he goes, Murney, there's a buy sell gap. And I go, yep, you're right. He goes, the only thing that fixes that is what? I go, are you going to tell me, Jim? He goes, time. And you and I don't have much of that. So he quit. Good for him. But, so we're looking at 26. We're hopeful that the performance will improve. The Canadians will return. The economy also impacted. I think there was a lot of stress at the gas pump and the grocery store, so that
Yes.
a lot of these guys were coming out here for a week to play golf and go to spring training. I think their wives said, you can do a long weekend, but you're not doing a week. So, there's a lot of factors that, the rents roll over every night. So it's impacted significantly differently than the office, industrial, multifamily, senior living markets. So we're hopeful. We're getting some listings. I've been, going back to what our original distressed property was. I've been following these Ashford portfolio for 3 years since they threw them back, and Trimont and KSL are the people that are control the disposition. So they got the first tranche in the market that they're concluding. So hopefully there's 2 in Phoenix, 1 in Las Vegas that we're tracking, and they're going to send us information to do valuations on them, hopefully this week. So there are some, but very few, more office buildings. They got all the office buildings you want. And I'm sure that, Barry and Chris are feeding at that trough as well. So
Yeah, sorry,
go ahead.
Bill, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steph.
I was just going to say that we had, to what Bill is speaking to, there's a group of us that kind of specialize in different asset classes, Chris and Barry included, that got together and said, this distressed capital is real and we need to start tracking it. This is what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago-ish. And
Right.
It was one of those, let's get ready. And from a title perspective, we really needed to get ready because the 08 team had either retired or nearly retired, and everybody sitting in the seats hadn't seen, these deed in lieu environments. So we got ready for it thinking, okay, the math is directing us in this way. But as we got together once a month for almost 2 years, it kind of trickled out. It didn't pour out, which is great. But it just, and I'm following this stuff nationwide, and there is a lot of East Coast distress assets coming through, but I don't think you're going to see it in our market. I really don't. I mean, there's going to be onesie twosies, but I just don't see what I'm seeing in Florida and the Carolinas and Indiana and Chicago. It's just those markets are lit up like a Christmas tree from a receivership perspective, but I haven't seen that here.
It would have happened. It would have happened by now. So
Really?
I agree.
My personal opinion, we would have seen that 2.5+ years ago, and we haven't. And I think there were a lot of investors that were waiting for blood to pour out into the streets. And quite
Yep.
frankly, as you mentioned, it's really just trickled out. And I think that's it's that way for a host of reasons. We certainly don't need to get into the political side of things, but Arizona is really, really well positioned. Not too long ago, I was in an event. There were about 500 people there, and the speaker said, by show of hands, how many of you in this room would rather work and live somewhere other than Arizona? And not one hand went up. So people love living here. This is a phenomenal place to raise a family. It's a great place to make a good, solid living. And we have so much to be thankful for here. I think all of us on the phone are here for a reason. And there are people that live in other parts of the country that are there for different reasons, not reasons of choice, but reasons of need. And so, I just think we're all blessed to live in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed. I'm a native. I've, moved out, moved back. It's a perfect place to raise a family. Back to the REO distress discussion on the office side. And I remember tracking the distress coming out of the GFC. And Barry and I did over 200 broker opinion of values for special servicers and lenders. Today, fast forward a decade later, tons of BOVs. Those are primarily for the owners, and that the lenders in the background and asking questions and really controlling the narrative. But inevitably, I think they learned from the GFC to this most recent iteration. If we take this back REO, we're getting pennies on the dollar to our loan, as opposed to, if we can work this out, be friendly with our sponsor and our equity, maybe it's not, we're pushing the envelope and building spec suites and amenitizing and activating and spending money. We're maintaining occupancy so that we can then sell to a user. We can sell to an opportunistic value add investor and not at bargain basement, below $50 a foot. There's been a reset to pricing, but it's been a lot of it to save face. I think in my gut is that the operators, they're running the process. The lenders are really controlling the process behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that sentiment. There's an overwhelming friendliness. Let's maybe bring a servicer in before we're talking receivership. Let's pull somebody else to the table. Let's fix the problem. Not sounds like your problem. You're not paying your bills. Hand me the keys. It's totally different. Totally different.
Agreed. Exactly. That's exactly right.
A lot of these financial institutions don't have the infrastructure, quite candidly, to handle those types of situations. And as such, if there's a friendly relationship with the borrower generally is out of the money anyway, but it's a way for them to pick up some fees and to save a relationship with the lender. And that's a powerful thing. And so you see a lot of this coming together where, Chris and I and CJ, our other partner, we've been on the receiving end of some listings where we've been working with the lender and the borrower together. And then us as an advisor, and the three different entities working together to get to the finish line, and then holding the hand of the buyer to help them get over the finish line to successful transaction. So today it takes a lot of different people to make a deal successful. A lot of different
people. The collaboration is winning. It's working.
And you're seeing it materialize in price per square foot. I mean, the sentiment, the eagerness, the buyer seeing, okay, I see an opportunity here. Maybe I wanted it, 2 years ago, and I thought there was gonna be blood in the streets at $80 a foot, but that's not the market. That lender and borrower stayed alive, and it sells for $120 a foot. And so everybody's happy at the end of the day. Still a reset to basis, but it's not, below land value where it's everybody's going which way is up. There's a path forward.
That's a stability piece, yeah. Jake, I'm going to transition us a little bit, and we've got 10 minutes or so left here. But forever, I think in all asset classes, healthcare, office, and hospitality inclusive, I can't think of a scenario that this didn't exist. But I don't know if it was just us trying to get creative last 2 years to try to get something done, but have we moved past the just convert, just take that and convert it? Is that still the hot topic and opportunity that you see?
You're talking converting office to medical. Yeah, it takes a lot to do that.
Gurney elevators are cheap, I've learned.
Yeah, very, very cheap. And, stretching a building, making it taller to, get clearances for HVAC is super simple. Yeah, there's certain markets where that is a possibility, but it's few and far between. There's functional challenges with that. And to the point we just made earlier, they're not as cheap as they once were, right? A couple of years ago, you were picking up medical or office buildings for nothing, and now they're back to better pricing. So it's more economical, or the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Picking up a older office building, trying to convert it to medical is just scraping it and building something new that's actually not functionally obsolete. So we don't typically do that. We have a movie theater that we did in Goodyear that we converted to a medical building. That was fairly simple, but the multi-story office product, that's not a great conversion through HVAC, through electrical, through ceiling height clearances. There's a million different reasons why. Just the load on each one of the floor decks can't hold some of the equipment. So it just gets too challenging, and people that are trying to do it, there's been a number of them that have failed. And plus, a lot of them aren't in great locations either. They're tucked behind other assets and not really visible, where you can go off and find some better land somewhere else in a market.
So for 2026 specifically, are you or your analysts, are you looking at both dirt and existing, or are you just staying open, or is there something you're kind of honing in on?
If we're looking at existing, we're looking at a scrape and rebuild.
Okay.
It's, especially out here in California, that's all the easy deals are done, right? Where it was just, greenfield sites everywhere. Now you're looking at, aggregating 2 or 3 parcels and trying to figure out how to swap land and change the parcel lines and do whatever you need to do to make a building work, or development work, I should say. So we have that challenge in Arizona as density, it gets denser and denser. I know historically you just kind of sprawl. You go from Santan all the way out to Buckeye, and it takes you an hour and 20 minutes. But in Phoenix proper, Scottsdale, you're looking at scraping and rebuilding certain assets.
Yeah. See, I didn't want to tell you, Chris, I'm a native as well, but we have a California resident on the call, so good job sticking it to him.
That's okay.
California.
Don't tell California, but I spend 50% of my time in Arizona, so I wish I could pay 50% of the taxes. So.
This episode of Wisdom and Wealth is brought to you by Landmark Title, the experts in title and escrow services. Landmark Title brings decades of experience and commitment to excellence to every transaction. Learn more about how their team can help protect your investments at ltaag.com. Landmark Title, building relationships built on trust. Bill, how about you, hospitality? Is converting still the name of the game, or is it going ground up, or don't know yet?
There's really not a lot of conversion opportunities. The office buildings, the floor plates are too big. You got to have a bunch of zombie space in the middle to make it work. They don't have enough window line. So there really hasn't been much of a conversion. There's been more of a conversion of older residence inns and town place suites, type properties to smaller workforce housing type multifamily. But that's also ceased over the last couple of years. We got the Crescent under contract. It's actually going to close. It had a fire in January 1st of 2023. It's been closed since. But we got a group that's going to go in there and do tax assisted housing, and they're going to actually build another group of buildings there as well. So, but it's trading for less than I sold it for in 2012. It's got, lots of building issues, and these guys own the property immediately adjacent, so they know what they're doing. But it's taken us, I think we got the listing in April of 2024. So wow. It's been a hump, but that's a receivership deal. Yeah. So, but all in all, it's mostly new builds in the markets that I talked about. The Northwest, the West Valley, Mesa Gateway, where there's land that's affordable, and the hotels there are doing really well. So anytime that happens, somebody throws up another 3 or 4 of them, the select service property. So from the development side, we've got 12 acres we're selling across the I-17 from TSMC. That's getting a lot of traction. There's not a lot of land to build up there. Common Bond's doing a residence inn and a courtyard on the MAC site. So, there's new development happening, but the cost of construction, makes acquisitions much more palatable on a price per room basis.
Yeah. Anything to add to that conversion? Because you guys are the pretty girl at the party with the office space.
Give you
Well-
a real-time example that happened in the last 2 years, Steph. You had a building in Scottsdale, infill, 2 stories, 116,200 square feet, structure parked. It's traded 3 times in the last 2 years. And we sold it every single time. Started as a value add opportunistic purchase at a lower price per pound. I want to say $69 a foot. Found a self-storage conversion piece, and the city of Scottsdale, buyer, excuse me, not piece. City of Scottsdale said, hey, don't love that for that location. And all the while, still keeping the door open. Inevitably sold a 3rd time. It actually doubled the value from the original transaction to a church. So there is a second life for these assets, whether it may in some cases be medical. In some cases, it's land value to redevelop to industrial, data center in certain pockets, self-storage, church, retail. I mean, the industrial, it's open. And so if you see an office building that has an infill, really good locational characteristic to it, there's a second life. And you just have to have a seller that's willing to Bill's point, meet the bid-ask spread. Once you get to the point where, okay, you're at land value and can start transitioning and find out who the next buyer, what the next iteration for this asset is, we're tracking 10 million feet of exactly that. Some of it's owner user, about 4 million square feet, another 6 million that's already been identified, sold, or in process of being sold that has been office, call center, back office, underutilized, under amenitized, older vintage that they're trading at great prices for land. But it's going to have a second iteration, second development, something completely different than what's there today.
Well, you think about that, that's the 10% of the total base of office. We're a 100 million square foot office market. If you've got 10 million square feet, that's no longer going to be identified as office. That immediately changes the healthiness of the office market. And you start to be in the teens in terms of vacancy as opposed to the mid-20s. It's a significant difference.
Nothing under construction. So you start looking 2, 3, 4 years down the road, big blocks of space. You have Taiwan Semiconductor, $165 billion investment. They just bought 900 acres. That's going to go up. That's a bigger investment than everybody's talking about. Users that need to be proximate to that mothership, others seeing the viability. It's a fun time. It is a really fun time. It's been muted for a couple of years, but we're seeing the green shoots. We're seeing the opportunity, and the investors are seeing it too.
Yeah, we just sold call it 140,000 square foot office building in Northwest Phoenix to a user. And for Phoenix, 140,000 feet, the user purchase is pretty darn big.
Yeah.
Most users that we think about are buying buildings that are, 10 to 25,000 feet, but we're seeing more and more of that as well. Desert Ridge Corporate Center, we sold that. That's 250,000 feet.
Yeah.
And that was sold to a user as well.
Multi-tenant office. So it's not just the 10s and 20s and 30s that owner users typically gravitate towards. They see a buying opportunity to buy that campus for $130 a foot as example, and peak pricing is $250 on that. So it's really a dynamic time that if you have capital available and you see a path to success, people are leaning in and they're buying. It's just not every case. You gotta tell the story. It's not an easy environment whatsoever, but it's a lot better than it was a year ago, and it's a lot better than it was a couple of years ago.
The moral of the story is your buyer pool is much wider, further, and deeper today for office because of the conversions and the different opportunities to reposition office space.
Never thought
That's a
about
healthy
it.
thing. That's a good thing for Phoenix.
And it's fascinating to me that we have, TSMC is such a monstrosity investment. We all know it's coming, and it's, I don't think there's any other site in the country that has as many cranes on it or damn close. I every time I drive by, I count because I'm a nerd, and I'm like, it'll be in the 18 to 23 cranes. It's crazy. But then you have another investment for 25 billion that announces, and the other side of town, and kind of nobody's even hardly talking about it. It's like, that used to be a big deal, like not that long ago. I'm not talking about it, but it's not getting the attention it would have gotten previous. And I'm gonna close this out with indicators. So you guys know I do a lot with Fighter Country Foundation out at Luke Air Force Base. And one of the indicators in the chatter last night was the pizza index at the Pentagon. It spiked. like astronomically spiked.
Yep.
But so I just say that to be funny. But as far as this year, to keep your strategic direction, what do you watch for an indicator? Where to go, when to go, what's going to happen? What's kind of your key metric that you watch? And I'm assuming it's not the pizza index.
Well, I'll throw one out.
Yeah.
We've been so fortunate to have net migration in Metro Phoenix for the past 4 decades in a row of almost 100,000 people. That's a huge indicator for every discipline that's on this call. What I personally watch is cost of living, because we have to maintain a healthy cost of living so that young, smart people who graduate from the 4 universities in Phoenix, but across the country, want to be in Phoenix, live here for the reasons we've expressed earlier, because they can afford to be here. If we get to affordability levels of Southern California, we are going to definitely lose smart young people because they're paying the same rent as they would to be 5 blocks from the beach. We're going to probably lose them. And so I'm very keen on making sure that Phoenix continues to maintain its cost effectiveness for all people, not just young people, but retirees as well, because that's really the economic engine of where we live. So that,
Barry,
to
did you
me-
say Keene?
I'm sorry, Bill?
Did you say Keene?
Keen.
I'm
I
very
did say
keen on
keen.
that.
I am
Okay.
keen.
I was just checking. I hadn't heard that word for a while.
Well, it's when you're in your 60s, you can say it. You should know that, Bill.
I'm all in.
I was like waiting for it.
I
I'm
agree
put
with
that into
Barry.
my vocabulary, Barry.
I'm keen to
I was
also.
waiting for when you were going to give me grief.
I would agree with Barry. The one thing on an actual, business perspective is tracking bid count. Because in certain cases, we've had, 20 plus offers on a certain asset, and others it's one or two. And, that's going to happen no matter what. But I think we'd like to see more interest, not just looky-loos, people that put pen to paper. And I anticipate the bid count, the bid sheets will grow this year with more parties dipping their toes back in. And so instead of sending an owner a 3-bid matrix, there's 10, 11, 12 on there. And you've got, the pick of the litter to figure out timing, pricing, earnest deposit, source of capital, who loves it the most. It's been thin to do so. And it's a lot where we can speak from a position of power when there's 10 bids there, because then you've got everybody competing over one another.
Love it.
Good point.
I wish I had a pizza index. All we do is, healthcare's slow. It's not like we ebb and flow, like somebody can just open up a brand new office and have a new idea, right? It's the same kind of consistent cadence throughout time. People get older, they start utilizing more healthcare. So, we kind of know where we're going or where we've been for the last 40 years, 50 years in our industry, and we'll continue to trend with that. So we're looking at, population growth, home starts, what's that? You brought up the Taiwanese semiconductor plant, right? So I'm like, oh, what kind of opportunity you have for healthcare? Well, how do you blend Eastern medicine and Western medicine? Like, I'm better off opening a Sprouts than, planting a flag with Abrazo. So kind of interesting there, but we just continue to watch population growth and continue to watch home starts. So
Love that. I didn't even think about the Eastern Western medicine. I think you remember this, but I had the largest nonprofit for naturopathic medicine in the world for 6 years, and I never even thought about that being a demand.
yeah, I did a interesting study up there. I was like, oh, there's an opportunity. I mean, this is one of the talks of the country, and they're going to bring 37,000 Taiwanese and their families over to service this building. And where are they going to get healthcare? Where are they going to go to school? How are they going to function?
Fascinating, Jake. That didn't even cross my mind. How about you, Bill? What you looking for besides pizza?
I love pizza. I don't know that I could function in the Pentagon, though. So,
I don't think you'd make it, Bill.
no. But, for us, it's more, you got to see it to believe it, because, a lot of people that want to take their properties to the market are coming out with these budgets for 26 that it's unrealistic. So we've tried to, give them the credit during the marketing phase of that they'll hit budget during first quarter. But ours is more rearview mirror stuff. And we hope that the Canadian travel comes back and the FU Trump goes away. We hope that, the problems in Europe, et cetera, will create more U.S. demand for travel. And so, but it's really, the proof is in, what happens with the hotel performance. So, for us, it's, interest rates coming down help. That obviously was a hurdle, made cap rates go up. And the interest in the Southwest market and the Intermountain market, the returns are better than they are on the West Coast, East Coast, and the gateway cities. So we're still hopeful that, that the ownership, we're looking for, somewhat distressed, so that owners have, a 15, 20,000 a key renovation coming up. They've got new supply in the market. Their brand franchise is up, whatever the case may be, to try to find motivated sellers. That's our job. And then, we've got certainly a cadre of buyers that want to be in the market, but they're only willing to pay based upon performance.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we are currently. So let's ask after the first quarter.
No, I'm asking now. I'm sick of next quarter. I want now.
I'm already married, Steph.
Oh, Bill. Opportunity.
You're just
missed.
practicing now that you're engaged, huh?
Yeah, I'm getting good. You guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk this morning. I think the sentiment is overall optimism, both on this call and in our marketplace, and a lot of that due to your hard work over these last few years and staying so optimistic and staying, belly up to the bar. I appreciate it so much. I think we all do.
Well, Steph, we
Thanks for
appreciate
putting
you.
it together, Steph.
You're constantly putting everybody together to collaborate and to share, and that's super important. And so I know I speak for Jake, Bill, Chris, and myself. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. Nice to meet
Enjoy
you.
it.
everybody.
Nice meeting you. See you, Barry, Chris.
See you
Bye,
guys.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope the conversation was inspiring for you. I hope you got a few laughs out of it and learned a thing or two. Please like, subscribe, and love you. See you next time. Now you're in the streets, y'all. I'm a mom.